Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bandwagon Hockey Podcast. It is Super Bowl Sunday, 12:33 Eastern Standard Time. T minus 5.5 hours. I think it's at 5. No, it's at 6:30. Okay, I always forget if it's at 6 or 6:30 in the Eastern Time Zone. For you, it's 7:30. Ryan, will you be watching tonight?
I will absolutely be tuning in tonight. Who are you cheering for?
I think. Oh man, I don't know. Like It's I actually don't know who I'm cheering for. I just want it to be a close game. There's been some really shitty Super Bowls the last few years.
Hmm.
Um I think I'm leaning KC just because I wanted like Buffalo to make it. I wanted Baltimore to make it. Like I wanted a different team to make it, but like now that KC's in it, I'd rather just them win because
Yeah.
like Patrick, it's just so sick what Patrick Mahomes has done in his career so far.
Yeah, further their greatness, kind of like establish that dynasty. Well, they kind of
Yeah.
have, but already, obviously, but
Yeah.
further so.
And I kind of compare it to like I don't. This is so off topic, but like to like minor hockey. If we would ever end up on like the B side of a tournament, it'd be like okay, like I kind of want to just go home so that I can like get ready for school tomorrow or whatever. Like on a
Yeah.
Sunday when you'd be on the B side and the finals would be at like 5 p.m. in Toronto or something. But then it's like once you get to the B final, it's like, okay, might as well win it now. And that's how I feel about Kansas City. It's like I didn't want them to make it, but now that they've made it, let's like might as well just win.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense to me.
Um, Like I was like, I don't know, something about. I think a lot of people are probably this way. Although I know a lot of people who would cheer against stuff like this, but like I always want LeBron James to win a championship. Like I wanted Tom Brady to rack up championships at the end of his career, and now like I want Patrick Mahomes to like win a bunch of championships.
Yeah, no, when I was much younger, like early teens, maybe even a bit before that, when there was like the Blackhawks winning cups, or like continually getting to the finals, and then there was the Kings who got like 2 in 4 years. I hated that when I was much
Yeah,
younger. I was like, come on, just like give me a different team. But like as I've gotten older, I can definitely appreciate now just like the stacking up of greatness for sure.
even Tampa just a couple of years ago, like
Yeah,
winning back to
yeah.
back. In retrospect, now, do you wish that Montreal would have won for Carey Price to have a cup or not? Nah?
Mm,
It's
I would
so
love
tough.
I would love Price to have a cup, but like I don't know if
I
I
would.
care enough about the rest of the team
I
to take
know.
that
I
away
would.
from Tampa.
I would hate for the Montreal Canadiens to have had a Stanley Cup win in the last like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, me too. I constantly
Um,
forget they were even there.
I know it's wild, but like for Carey Price's sake, I kind of wish they did. But at the same time, like I think it's I don't want to say better for hockey, but like it's just cool that Tampa won back to back. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like it doesn't feel real to think about how Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield was there too, right? Have gone on a long
Yeah,
playoff run.
yeah. I think that was Caulfield's like first games
Yeah.
in the NHL was the playoffs because he finished up at Wisconsin and then signed. It was the
Yeah,
same
no, I
with
think that's right.
it was the same with Makar way back when. I forget
Hmm.
what year it would have been that Colorado went to the playoffs and then Makar's like first NHL games were in the playoffs. Probably like
Yeah.
2019 or 2018 or something.
Hmm. But
But
that's
that's like
trippy to think about how those two have like, or how that team has even been there recently.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's weird to think about.
it's super weird. Um okay, let's get into it. Yeah, I don't know. Busy slate last night, but obviously there's like one main pressing point to talk about, which will probably take up a lot of the oxygen of this episode. Also, due to the fact that Ryan and I were talking about it before coming on the pod, we've both been sort of in that mid-season lull where we haven't been watching like other teams' games just because over the course of an 82 game season, it gets really hard to care for 82 games, especially when the team that you are mainly invested in stinks. And so
Yeah.
we both kind of have hit that rut over the last few weeks. It doesn't help when All Star is lodged in the middle and there's an All Star game and nothing else with 3 days on either side of the All Star
Oh yeah.
festivities. So like,
Yeah. Like the Sens were I don't want to say my complete interest in hockey revolves around the Sens because that's not true, but like I'm way more
but it
interested in
helps.
yeah, no, I'm way more interested in keeping up with the league when my favorite team is doing well. Like I enjoy
That's
looking at more.
everyone. That's
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, obviously. But like the Sens were just starting to put together some decent games right before the All-Star break. So I was starting to get back into watching more hockey, and then all of a sudden they're off for 10 days. It's the All-Star break, and
Yeah.
that just killed that again for me. So
Did you
no,
like All Star? We didn't talk about it last week with the boys,
mhm.
but did you like All Star?
I I liked it a lot more than what it was last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I would go as far to say as I like overall loved it, but like I think there was obviously great improvements from where it
I
was.
I think it's tough. Like as 23-year-olds that are
That's the
like
other thing.
we were the kids who were like obsessed with all-star stuff as kids, so like
Yeah.
I will always understand why all-star's a thing. Like people who like shake their fist at all-star being a thing, like shut up. Like you were
Mhm.
that, like no matter how old you were, how old you are minus like how old you are plus 5 years, like when you were 5, like you loved all-star. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, everyone did, and like I did, and I still kind of love seeing all the players like interacting with each other. Like that's why I like the skills.
Yeah.
um that's why I thought I was going to like the draft. I didn't like the draft
Yeah,
mainly
the draft
because
was awful.
it was boring and short and awkward. So awkward. Like, oh my god, NHL gets some hosts. Like
The
David
pro-
Amber's terrible.
well, the production decisions were
Yeah.
questionable at best. Like
Yeah.
I can understand why you want to do it in the arena in front of all the fans like that, but like when you go back and look at how it was done in like theaters with all the players
Yeah.
backstage able to mingle before they get picked
Yeah.
and then they come out and have fun with it. Like I don't know, that was just
I
such a better
I
setup.
I really don't like how they did it. Like on the
No, it
ice, all
was
the players
terrible.
just sitting awkwardly with their hands in their laps.
Yeah,
The last pick thing was ridiculous. Like the last
awful.
4 guys like drew a name out of a hat to see which team they're on. Like go away.
Yeah, come on.
Um
Like didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. That was stupid.
and like the celebrities, like I don't know, like they tried. Arnett was awesome. Tate McRae, like I don't
I
think we like really acknowledge like she's 20. Like that's a lot for her
No,
interacting with like a bunch of
yeah.
grown men hockey players. Like that's an intimidating thing for a 20-year-old like 20-year-old woman. Um
hmm
I
And
think most of the
yeah,
time.
as
And
much as the celebrities may have been like, I don't know, maybe a weird fit or like they were just like, I don't know. There was something off about it just because it was the NHL. It felt weird. But
yeah,
at the same time, you could tell that I think all four really appreciated being there and
yeah.
really enjoyed the fact that they were a part of it.
The celebrity choices were perfect. Like don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. Like
But
don't get me
but
wrong.
didn't something about it feel awkward just because
Yeah,
it
but
was the
it always
NHL?
is. It
Yeah,
always is.
yeah,
Everything's
yeah.
always awkward because the NHL. And like for whatever reason,
Mhm.
like I love Justin Bieber, and I don't know what I expected from him, but he just kind of like sat the whole time,
Yeah.
which was kind of weird. And then Buble was so in your face and took up so much of the oxygen from like the Hughes and stuff. Like
Mm.
it felt like he was parenting his kids the whole time, which
Yeah.
was a super weird vibe.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I said this to you. I don't know if it was during the event or after or whatever, but it felt like early on, maybe the Hughes brothers were not like as eager to get on the mic, so he felt like he had to grab that early, and then he just
yeah,
didn't stop.
and
He
then
just
once the
didn't
players
stop.
once they did get comfortable, he didn't like pick up on the
Yeah.
fact that they were starting to get a little bit more comfortable, and they were like
hmm
at one point they were like talking about a trade, and Buble like fully interjected and was like, "Dude, what are you doing?"
Yeah,
Like,
like come on. Just step back a little
um,
bit.
and then like, dude, Makar is a black hole for personality.
Yeah.
He
Got
sucks. Like
nothing, eh?
he sucks.
I don't know if I've ever seen stuff around him. Like,
Oh, I
he
have, and it's always terrible. Did you see the video with him and Tate McRae after?
Oh, I did see that one. Yeah, that was terrible.
It was
Oh,
so bad. It was so
yeah,
bad. He's off.
that's
He's
so
off.
funny.
He's awful. Great player. I understand like wanting to highlight him, but holy shit. Um okay, but yeah, like draft sucked. The skills were awesome. I liked the skills. It was a bit
Yeah.
too long, and then the game always sucks. So
Mhm.
whatever. Okay, Sens and
Well,
Leafs last. Oh,
well, sorry, one last thing. I did find the game was better. I don't know what about
it
it
was better. I
made made it better, but The
I think it was because
players
it was in
definitely,
Toronto.
yeah, maybe.
Half
And
the
like,
players there were from Toronto. Like half the players there
yeah,
were either Leafs players or like from Toronto, so they probably had like family and stuff. And then
true.
like McDavid's hometown, like he was kind of running the show there and
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Like the Leafs guys
Yeah,
were actually trying at the end, so
yeah. And like, obviously I know there was extra financial benefits or whatever, or incentives, but it felt like the players were more bought in for sure.
yeah, which is good. Um, but no, like All Stars not for us, and
No,
that's
yeah.
it's not the case, but
Yeah, and people need to, like you said, like
it's
people need to
crazy.
understand that it's not
Yeah,
not everything is meant for everybody.
yeah.
You can let it go.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's get into it. Obviously the main topic mentioned it going to take up a lot of the oxygen after we spent 11 minutes talking about the All-Star game that was a week and a half ago. Sens and Leafs last night. Where do you want to start with this one? Ottawa won it 5-3. They started flat. I thought the Leafs were going to crush them in the first few minutes. Do you want to start with the big stuff? Do you want us to talk about like the general takeaways of the game? Like, do you have a big takeaway from the game?
Um, I guess like just aside from all the shenanigans at the end, my big takeaway from this game would be that the Leafs continue to be mid.
They kind of suck.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, I was just looking at the I was just
They're
looking at
floundering.
I was just looking at the standings. Um and like they are not like a shoe-in to make the playoffs.
Not at all.
Like
Not at
they
all.
right now, they are the seventh team in the Eastern Conference. Like they're wild card one.
Hmm.
And in a first round matchup, they'd be up against the Rangers. I would tend to think that they'll probably end up playing Florida, but like based on the way they're playing, and I think Tampa has been good lately. So like
Yeah,
Tampa and Toronto are kind of going to be like battling to see like who's going to play Florida because like you want to finish third in your division, I guess. But at the same time, like Detroit's right there too, and so those three teams are kind of jockeying with like the Islanders, and then no, I'm not including the Islanders in that. Even though they're the next team, I don't
yeah.
think they're gonna make it. Like Pittsburgh could go on a run. The Eastern Conference is just super lame this year. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
there was a I want to say maybe 10 to 15 games ago where it looked like the races was going to be super compelling for those last two spots. Um, and like now it's kind of defined itself a little bit more. Like
yeah,
the Islanders are 4 points back with a game over the Red Wings.
yeah,
Um, yeah, like it's definitely gotten a bit more defined now. It's not like a shoe in like the Devils. It's like, oh, you just assume like the Devils are gonna go around and get
yeah. And
in.
it's
Like
like
that's not a given anymore.
same with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Like those four Metro teams, kind of sandwiched between 56 and 53 points. Like they don't like their math is not good for catching those Atlantic teams.
Not at
And
all.
like as of right now, it's in terms of like pace and stuff. Like it's Toronto, Detroit, and Tampa in the playoffs. And like I think Toronto gets absolutely smoked in a first round series, almost no matter who they play right now. Like even if they do get into that like Atlantic 3 spot, like they're getting fucking crushed by Florida.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But you know what's
Um,
funny about the NHL is that this is
yeah,
the year that
this
they'll make the Eastern Conference final or whatever.
this is gonna yeah exactly because you want to know why, Ryan? It's because they're
Yeah.
gonna get that number one wild card spot. They're gonna go up against the Rangers, who are a vehemently flawed hockey team. Like what a flawed team that's still yet in first place in the Metro, and they're gonna end up on the Metro side of the bracket instead of the Atlantic side.
Hmm.
And then they're gonna get to the Eastern Conference Finals and then get pumped by Boston, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that'll be the story. Like that's gonna be what happens this year. But it's
Yeah.
crazy how like
Their path Yeah, sorry, their path to success is not through the athletic division, so they
no,
have to fall down and get out. Now that's a
yeah,
funny notion.
all these years finishing first and second in the Atlantic just to finally break through by being a wild card team and going over to the Metro. Um, but no, like it just seems like it's between Boston and Florida this year. Like I don't really get excited about anyone in the Metro unless Carolina goes and makes a big ad. or unless Shesterkin really starts playing. But like it gives a good indication of where that division's at based on the fact that Philadelphia is in third place, which is still insane. Like everyone's just waiting on their downfall and it's just not coming. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like Toronto's season at all. I'm so excited for when they do like a crazy, like all in deal a la Blackhawks trade last year when they traded a bunch of picks for like McCabe and Lafferty. I could see them doing something like that this year where they trade a bunch of stuff for two players.
Yeah.
And it's tough, right? Like a lot of people are saying like this isn't really the year for Toronto. Like don't push your chips in. How can you not? Like this is the last year that Nylander isn't like a top 5 paid player in the league. Matthews is on pace for 70 some goals. He scored again last night. Like how do you not push your chips in? But like at the same time, how it's a paradox for the Leafs right now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's so tough because, like you said, the East does feel pretty open right now. So it would make sense to capitalize on Matthews' awesome season.
Yeah.
And man, no, it is a tough one because I think we've talked about this, and I'm very much on the side of logically they shouldn't really do anything big and just ride it out. Like I
Yeah.
don't think they should be trading another prime asset to try to go for it.
Yeah.
Like as much as Willie does take that massive jump next year, like now you have all these guys for the next little bit. And you can, I don't know, the big thing before this season or even last season was, okay, let's make sure Matthew stays. Matthew stays. Matthew stays. Like be competitive enough to make him stay.
Yeah.
Now like that's the guys have their contracts again. It's taken care of. So if you have to take a step back and just look at things and reevaluate, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world.
It's just tough though, right? Because like these guys aren't young anymore.
Yeah, I know.
That's the issue. Like
Yeah,
Matthews is 26. What's a
yeah.
player's prime now? Like 23 through 29? 23 through 30? Like all of a sudden they've burned like more than half of these guys' primes, if not more than that. Like this is probably Nylander's peak. Like there's a good chance that this is like a Nylander peak season.
For sure.
Conveniently timed for when he needs
That's
a new
an
contract.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Like Tavares is only going down. He looked like shit last night. That guy doesn't do anything anymore. I don't know. Like if their move is to trade a bunch of stuff for like a Chris Tanev and then they're able to extend Tanev, I like that for them.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that.
If you go get a rental and then extend them, like that's objectively like what Toronto should do.
Yeah, I guess I'll rephrase. I hate them going all in on a rental. Like if you're going to get a piece that's going to help you for the next couple years, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I agree. Yeah. Like the Giordano thing. Remember they traded a bunch of stuff for Giordano and then kept him.
Yeah.
Like do that, and it's Toronto. Like they can do that, and I'm pretty sure they have a ton of cap space this offseason.
Even the
obviously with very few players signed, but still.
Yeah, even the McCabe trade, like I didn't.
Yeah, it was good.
That was good.
Yeah, and then so they turned around and traded Lafferty for 5th round pick, and then used the space that they opened up to sign Ryan Reeves.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Yeah, that's like underratedly one of the worst things Toronto has done roster wise in recent memory is trading away Lafferty for nothing and then signing Reeves with that money. Like that compounded, like that maneuver is terrible because they essentially traded Lafferty for Reeves in a 5th, right?
Yeah.
And Lafferty's like that he's like that kind of like gritty, nasty, swarly bottom 6 guy.
Yeah.
And I think he's got like 10 goals for Vancouver this year. Like he's been actually good. Yeah. Oh my God. He's got 10 goals and 10 assists. Like he's got 20 points this year in 51 games playing 12 minutes a night for Vancouver. And Toronto got a 5th round pick out of it. Like what? And what has Reeves done? He plays 4 minutes a night and tries to punch guys, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, they are so top heavy, man. It's crazy. Like no one else can score goals on that team.
I also think that the fan base is already turning on Tree Living.
Yeah.
Because he did a bad job filling out his roster this year, right?
Yeah, he did.
Like 3 years ago, Dubas is using. So what did they spend? They spent 4 was it 4 and change, whatever, on Klingberg, who was an abject disaster. 5.5
Yeah.
on Bertuzzi, which I liked at the time, but like turned out to be terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Domi 3 million, like that's
I.
$12 million on 3 guys.
Mm-hmm.
When you have 4 guys making, or I guess not 4, but like, okay, let's talk next year. When you have
And
four
Reeves a
guys,
million. You can throw Reeves.
Reeves more than 1 million, like that's
Yeah.
crazy. When you have 4 guys making 40 this year, that number goes up to like 45, 46 next year. And then if you loop in Reilly, it's 5 guys making like
Yeah.
over 50. Um, when you have 5 guys making over 50 million, you can't be spending $12 million on 3 middling players.
Mm-hmm.
You
No,
have to use
absolutely.
that money on 5 or 6 guys making two, maybe 1.5, 2.5, whatever, and hope that they like way outperform. You can't spend $5.5 million on Tyler Bertuzzi so that he can be a $5 million player,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you need the surplus. You need to spend 2 and have a guy produce at a 5, like what Zach Hyman used to do, and what like Michael Bunting used to do. Like that's where Toronto really went wrong this year. Is they spent the middling money on middling players instead of low money on high upside.
Yeah, I also think what, and I didn't even hate their offseason moves at the time, like other than Reeves. Reeves was dumb.
Yeah,
But I thought at the time bringing in Bertuzzi and Domi were two kind of middle six guys. Bertuzzi a little bit more, so like he can be a top six guy when he's playing his best. Um, but I thought those were two guys that could come in there and give them what they desperately needed, a little bit more grit,
yeah,
a little bit
yeah,
more heart. And like sure they've maybe shown that at times this year, but like it is not translated at all. Like
no,
their gameplay has been completely shut down by how that team plays.
yeah,
Like it's not a fit whatsoever.
no, it's not. And I always laugh at the notion. I think it's Thomas Drance, like Dmitry Filipovich on the PDO cast, like him and Thomas Drance always hammer home this point. Um, People always like to complain about star players when they're like overpaid by like 1 million or 2 million or whatever. So it's like a $10 million player who gets 11 million, whatever, and people
Hmm.
will lose their minds, like whatever. You overpaid, but no one ever bats an eye at overpaying the bottom of the lineup players, even
Yeah.
though like objectively, if a guy should be making $1 million and someone pays them 2 versus when someone should be making 10 but you pay them 11, like you're overpaying by the same amount of money. But like if
Hmm.
you look at it as a ratio wise, like you'd rather overpay the $10 million player than the $1 million player.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, every time. But no one ever talks about it, right? Because it's such a small amount of money. David Camp, $2.5 million for 4 years. Like that
Yeah.
is so bad.
Yuck.
Like that's so bad. Like that's a minimum level player. And it's moves like that it seemed like Kyle Dubas never used to make. And I think that's where they've like really missed him this year, is their
Mm.
roster building at the bottom.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Kalle Yarncroke, kind of the same thing. I don't know. They're kind of a mess, and I don't. I just they kind of suck. Like they're smack dab in the middle of the Eastern Conference, and there's some nights where they look like they can beat everyone, and there's some nights where they lose to the Ottawa Senators.
They I I'm trying to find the exact number here now, but I'm pretty sure they still only have, yeah, 17 regulation wins. Like Ottawa's only one
Oh
regulation win behind
man,
them.
Ottawa only has 16.
Ottawa has 16, yeah.
They have
They've
5
a
overtime
lot
wins.
more recent wins have been in overtime.
Oh, okay. Um,
Yeah.
what about regulation and overtime, like the ROW? Do you have that in front of you?
Yeah. So the Leafs are 22 and Ottawa's 20.
Okay, so Ottawa only has one shootout win, but they've got a bunch of overtime wins.
Yeah,
Okay, got it. Um, okay, that makes more sense. Um, Ryan, are you looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58?
I would love one.
DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered then. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into 200 instantly in bonus bets. Tonight, I already said it. I'm riding the Chiefs. I think they are going to win. Um, although I'm like, it's such a toss up. Like, it's arguably the two best teams. It's the best team against the best quarterback. I think the 49ers were the best throughout the year, but I think the Chiefs are going to win. I know the 49ers are favored. I believe it's by a touchdown, or not a touchdown. Oh my God, a field goal. They're favored by 3.5. I will tend towards that Chiefs plus 3.5, mainly because I think they'll win, and if not, I think they'll keep it close. Call to action: download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. New customers can bet $5 and get 200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Let's move over to the Senators side. Dating back to before the All-Star break, they have now played at a 7-2-2 clip in their last 11 games. The fruits of Jacques Martin's labor are finally starting to show, I think. They're 5-1-1, I believe, with Shane Pinto in the lineup. He looks so good. He was on at
So
the
good.
end for those 2 defensive zone faceoffs. Actually, it might have even been like 3 or 4 after those couple icings. But the first 2, I know, like for sure, Pinto won the draw against Matthews in the defensive zone with like a minute and a half left or whatever when Toronto, their goalie, pulled down by a goal. And oh my God, I just got so excited seeing Ridly Greig, Shane Pinto, and Vladimir Tarasenko on the ice.
Dude, that was such an underrated part of his skill set that was missed about. Obviously, he missed half the season. Like, he's such a good face-off guy,
Yeah.
and one of the Ottawa's biggest problems this year has been the how god awful the power play has been,
Yeah.
and a big part of that is it feels like a ton of the time they lose that first face-off
Yeah.
and it just gets shot down the ice
Yep.
immediately. So
Yep.
he's helping out with that. I think his first game back, he was 90% on the draws.
That's
Like, the
crazy.
kid is just automatic in the dot. I think he's point per game. Like, I think he's got 7 points in 7 games now that he's back. Um,
Oh my God,
the
he
Sen-
does.
yeah, the Sens are. Want to get this right? I tweeted it out last night. The
He's played.
Sens are 32 5
Oh
and
my
5
God, I
all
know.
time when Shane Pinto gets a point.
It's
So
absurd.
he's just an epically important part to this middle six.
He's the second line center.
Yeah,
He
he probably
is.
should be.
Norris, like, I don't like harping on Norris because he scored last night, but that guy should be a winger.
He should.
He really should
And
be a winger.
I need to see him get a stint on the wing before the season's over. Like, I want to see that before we go into next season.
Right, because like the next 30 games are about getting everything going for next season. And which is so frustrating to say because that's what we were saying literally a year ago, probably to this day.
Yeah.
These last 30 games are all about next year, and we've been saying it for the last 2 or 3 years now with all these playoff expectations going into every season. But I don't know, like there's no DeBrincat cloud hanging over the team. There's no ownership cloud hanging over the team. Like you can kind of just be like, "Hey, this is the team, plus or minus a Jacob Chikrin, I guess." But who knows what's gonna happen with him? But like this is the team. Like who's in place is probably who's gonna be here next year, barring a Josh Norris trade or a Thomas Chabot trade, which I just don't think is likely. Despite how much I want a bit of a shakeup, like I just think this is what the team's gonna look like next year, plus or minus a few guys. And like I think Pinto is the second line center, and I think Ridly Greig is the third line center, and I think Josh Norris should be your second line left winger behind Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah, I completely agree because you have those 4 centers, right? As of now, Tim Stützle, Josh Norris, Ridly Greig, and Shane Pinto.
Yeah.
None of those guys are a fourth line center.
No.
So somebody's going to the wing if you want to keep them all. And to me, Josh Norris just makes by far the most sense. He's like a natural goal scorer.
Yeah.
So him on the wing makes a ton of sense for somebody to drive the middle and then dish it off to him. And like it just I don't know. I don't know why they're forced like is Ridley still on the wing? Was that
Yeah,
where he was playing last night?
played left
Yeah.
wing with Tarasenko on the right and Pinto in the middle. And it was such a
Yeah,
good line. It was
oh
such a good
yeah.
line.
Like
They
that's
were
that's a sick third line.
they were so much better. Like Tim Stützle was a fucking ghost last night. Like he was
Yeah.
lollying all over. It was crazy. Like I was locked in on him every
Mhm.
single time he came back to the bench. It just was like it just I don't know. It was one I for my money it was his worst game of the season. But Norris was legitimately good. Batherson was flying. Brady Tkachuk did
Mhm.
his normal shit, but like
And
that
I,
third line slash like whatever you want to call it of Pinto, Greig, and Tarasenko, like they were everything.
mhm.
Pinto, I don't like plus minus, but whatever. Greig was +4. Pinto and Tarasenko were both +3 in a 5-3 game. Like that's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, and I find like Ottawa Ottawa's biggest problem this season early on was that there's just not enough forwards dedicated to playing a defensive game.
Oh,
And Ridly Greig from the get-go has been pretty damn good at that. Like he's already one of their better two-way players, and I just don't know why you're forcing that on the wing as opposed to a Norris who has not always been able to show that in his game, and you need that for your centerman.
well, and Norris is just so like in the. I'm trying not to like bag on the guy, but like
No, I love Norris.
he's for lack of a better term, he's an inconsequential player when he's not scoring.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
when he's not scoring, he's not doing a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like he's not setting guys up. He's not playing great defense. He's not driving play. Like he's not doing that
I
stuff.
agree.
And that's why I don't think he should be in the middle because Pinto does that and Greig does it. Greig causes stuff on every shift. Every
Mhm.
shift. And like long term, the centers should be Tim Stützle down the middle, Shane Pinto down the middle, and Ridly Greig down the middle. Put Kachuk, Norris, and whoever on the left wing. And then you got Giroux, Batherson, whoever on the right wing. You fill out that third line going into next year, and that's all of a sudden
Mhm.
your top nine, and it looks pretty good. I think.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think obviously the roster needs tinkering, but I think we all know that the team isn't as bad as their record right now.
Yeah.
Um and I think the season really boils down to two things happening. The sale being delayed so they couldn't get new coach in place
Yep.
and Shane Pinto being suspended.
Yeah. 100%.
Those two things ruined the season.
I'm looking forward. I'm excited to see how the team does. I don't want to like artificially. Actually, no, it's not that artificial. Basically, I'm excited to see what Ottawa's record looks like in the last 41 games of the season with Shane Pinto in the lineup. It's
Mhm.
already fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, like Shane Pinto in the lineup. I said 5-1-1. They're 7-2-2 in their last 11, which is an excellent run of play. But like instead of just cherry picking that 7-2-2 start from game 42 on and see what the record looks like with Shane Pinto in the lineup. And I'm excited to see if that is like a playoff pace or not. Because Lord knows that when he puts up points for this team, like they win games. And it just so happens that Shane Pinto has not played a lot of hockey in his career yet because of his injury and his what was supposed to be his rookie year and then his suspension. So he's only really had the one full season of play.
And like the center depth of the Ottawa Senators is fantastic right now, but like as we saw, only take one of those guys out and it crumbles.
Yeah.
But the all-time record now with Stützle, Norris, Pinto down the middle
Oh,
is 21, 9, and 2.
yeah. That is
So,
a playoff pace, ladies and gentlemen.
oh, absolutely. And I just it sucks that we haven't been able to see them together for a long stretch of time. Like the fact that those three players have kind of been here for 3 years together now, I think.
Realistically, like one.
That's what I'm getting at though.
Yeah.
Like all three of those guys have been
Wait, it was you said Stutzla, Norris, and Pinto, right?
Yeah.
and the record was 21-9-2.
Yeah. It's
Like
it's
that's
like
that's
not even
30.
5% of the games.
Yeah, that's 32 games.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's not even
My
half a
my
season. But like these three guys have
mhm.
been like part of this team's lineup for 3 years, 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think a big part of the disconnect between the expectations, maybe the last, I'll even extend 2 years because I think Sens fans thought it was possible last year as well.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, like I think a big part of those expectations falling flat is not having that center depth in place for the entire year because
Oh,
Norris was hurt all last year and
yep.
Pinto was gone basically
Well,
up until this point this year.
so Pinto missed. So the year that Norris scored like 30 some goals,
Hmm.
like his big year that got him this big contract, like Pinto missed that whole year. Did he
Yes.
not? Pretty sure he
Yeah,
did.
or was that the year he signed and came in late?
No, he missed that whole year. So the year he signed and
Yeah,
came
no,
in
you're
late
right. Yeah.
was 2020, 2021, the COVID year. He played
Hmm.
12 games. And then 2021, 22, he played 5 games.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
he
you're
was
right.
supposed to be a full-time NHL, not maybe not full-time, but like he was supposed to be like in the lineup every night that year. And he played five
Hmm.
games because he got hurt. And
Yeah, that's
last year,
why that's why last year was his rookie year, but it felt like he's been around for 2 years.
exactly. And so last year he
Yeah,
played 82, and Norris played 5 because of his shoulder. And then
yeah,
started this year, everyone's healthy. Norris missed the first week or two, but then Pinto gets suspended for the first half of the season. And so, like, this team has not seen a lineup.
not at
It
all.
hasn't
No.
seen its full lineup, and that's kind of an underrated part of why this rebuild is having such a hard time getting off its feet. Is like the team just hasn't been healthy. In addition to many
Mhm.
other things, like coaching's been
Yeah,
an issue,
like
goaltending's always going to be an issue. But
and
like
they never have had the depth to step up when one of those key players is out of the lineup, right? Like
exactly, like yeah.
when that guy is gone, it's shambles.
But it's tough too, right? Because you look at these great teams and you're like, oh, they're always able to have guys step in. It's hard to have a guy step in for 77 games.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Like
Yeah.
the good teams are able to overcome like 2 or 3 games here and there because they can just shift guys up and the players are so good that they can make up for it. But when you
Hmm.
have Shane Pinto missing 41 games and then 77 games 2 years ago, and then Norris missing all of like
Yeah.
79, 80 games last year, like that no team's going to be able to overcome that
Yeah.
realistically,
But let's say
unless you're
they have
Tampa.
yeah. But let's just say Ottawa has everyone to start the year and God forbid Norris went down with another season-ending injury. Then you
Right.
still have those like then you still have Ridly Greig to step up in there. Like
Yeah.
this is the first year I guess that they have four guys
Yeah.
that can do the top three center role. And that's
Right.
huge.
Right.
Yeah.
And they still sucked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think Pinto's kind of the key there.
Yeah, for
Because he's
sure. And
so good defensively.
and
And
I think like obviously Greg is getting there, but this is still his first full year, and
oh
people
yeah.
need to understand
But
that.
I think like you could argue yesterday was like kind of the Pinto and Greg coming out party.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Like national television against Toronto. Pinto has a monster game. Greg makes every headline you could possibly think of. Um and like Tim Stützle was nowhere to be seen. Josh Norris scored, but like he had a typical Josh Norris game. Like he scored, but like what else did he do? And it was reflective on their ice time. Like Pinto played 20 minutes, Greg played 19 minutes, Tim Stützle played 16 and a half.
Wow,
Like Tim Stützle's season time on ice is over 21 minutes, and that guy played 16 yesterday. Like
that's crazy. That
it,
is undershadowed as hell because
he
I
was
haven't heard that
horrible.
once.
He was horrible. He was true. Like he was doing cardio
And
yesterday. Like you know the iconic like Pierre Luc Dubois shift in Columbus.
mhm,
It wasn't obviously that bad, but like that's kind of how it felt. Like he was just going through the motions, and
mhm,
I don't think that's uncommon for a young player coming off of a 10-day vacation. Let alone like the first year where the guy's making like real like NHL star money. So like he
yeah.
probably splurged on himself on this vacation, but still it was brutal.
Leafs didn't have any power plays either,
No,
right?
they didn't. No, they didn't.
Yeah, so like that's not dragged down by a bunch of penalty killing time that he wasn't out
Yeah.
there for.
No,
Yeah,
he
that's
just didn't
crazy.
get played, and rightfully so. He was terrible.
Hmm.
Um Shabbat was awesome. It's a real shame that it kind of takes one guy being out of the lineup for Shabbat to always shine. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he always plays really well when either Sanderson or Chikrin aren't in the lineup.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's pretty
true.
obvious why, right? Like, because when Sanderson or Chikrin are in the lineup, one of them is forced onto Shabbat's pairing, and it's just a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, they're just. I hate that they continue to force the Shabbat Chikrin pairing when everyone's there and healthy, but
yeah. I wish they would just
that
do
could
one
be
on
a
each
different
line
conversation.
consistently,
Yeah.
but I don't know. That'll probably get sorted out in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about it at a later date, but I think my ideal situation would be to trade Chikrin in a hockey deal for a forward and then sign Mr. Tanev if you can. All right, let's talk about the end of the game. We're already at 40 minutes. We are always
Yeah.
able to manage this. Okay, Ridly Greig slap shot on the empty net gets absolutely mauled by Morgan Rielly, and all hell breaks loose as there's like a little bit of a, I don't want to say a line brawl, but a bunch of guys were exchanging fisticuffs, and then Ryan Reeves gets thrown over the boards, and Brady Tkachuk's talking to Jacques Martin. He's like basically pleading to be on the ice to end the game, but instead Mark Kastelik goes out there, and Chikrin and Tarasenko get in Reeves' way so that he can't get to Kastelik, and it takes 10 minutes to drop the puck on the opening on the I guess the closing face-off before um, Reeves tries to make his move, and then Tarasenko and Chikrin kind of just get right in his face. Like, it was kind of funny. I don't know if this is something that was noticed or anything, but I was locked right in on it because I noticed that Kastelik and Reeves were kind of jawing at each other all game, which I love. I'm happy that Brady wasn't really a part of that. But Chikrin lined up basically right next to Tarasenko at the end. So Kastelik took the face off. Whoever Toronto's fourth line center is took the face off. Reeves was on Toronto's right wing, which would be lined up right next to Ottawa's left wing. And Tarasenko was right there as he normally is, but then Chikrin was also right there. Like, he had no interest in lining up as a defenseman. Like, he was literally right next to Tarasenko, and as soon as the puck dropped, the referee, I think a linesman actually dropped it, and the linesman came right in and grabbed Kastelik, and then both Sens players went right in front of Reeves to block anything from happening. I just thought it was kind of awesome. But anyway,
Yeah.
what was your takeaway from the Reilly and Greig situation? Because it lit Twitter on fire.
Yeah, first of all, I think that's absolutely rock star and hilarious from Ridly Greig. Like,
Yeah.
it's I took a little like snippet of what Steve Dangle actually said in his LFR last night and put it on Twitter, and I think it just put it perfectly. It was like, of course that's what Ridly Greig should do in that moment. Like, it's a big rivalry game. He's an up and coming pest in this league. Your building is full of Leafs fans, and it feels good to beat them. So put a big emphatic ending to it. And that's what he did. And I think the Leafs absolutely deserve to be upset with it. But where the disconnect comes for a lot of people, obviously, is Reilly took it way too far, getting the stick up towards his head. I think there's no problem if he rubs him out into the boards or if he drops the gloves and tried to fight him. But I just thought the stick to the head was a little gutless. How did you see it?
So a lot of people are saying like they support what Reilly did, and like they'd be getting absolutely flamed if he didn't step in and do that. But
Mm-hmm.
he took it too far, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
cross check to the head, like that's crazy that you're an NHL player and your instinct is to cross check someone in the jaw.
Mm-hmm.
Same goes for David Perron, and it was funny. Like, after the game, I was like, oh, what was the other like cross check thing that happened, and how many games did he get? And I couldn't think of it for the life of me. I was like, there's no way it involved Ottawa too, did it? And it was Artem Zub against
Yeah.
Detroit like a few weeks ago, or honestly, it might have even been months by now. And I think Perron got 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
and like, I don't know. Like, I think this one. I don't know if this one was as bad, but it was certainly more notable, and it was at the end of a game, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
the Zubin Perron thing was in the first period, I believe, of that game, and then this one was with 5 seconds left. So Perron, in essence, served a game of his suspension just by getting kicked out with the game misconduct in the 5-minute major, I think,
Mm-hmm.
from that game. But then in this game, Morgan Rielly was given 5 in a game, which served all of 5 minutes. So I wonder if that that will absolutely factor into the decision as well, where it's like, okay, this is probably a 6-game suspension, but like he didn't serve that game or half a game even, so like we have to tack an extra game on or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know how that decision is made, but I know that when an infraction happens in a game, like that factors into how many games a player gets.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm just curious how these discussions take place in these NHL player safety meetings, because somehow, some way, the code is coming into this. Like but like I don't know how you bring that up into a disciplinary meeting, because sure, there's been other instances where the code comes into play where there was something, I don't know how to word this. There was something like not what's the word? There's something bad happening to one, or something bad happened to one team's player, and another player came back and retributed at him. Obviously,
Retaliate.
like retaliate. That's the word I couldn't think of. Thank you. Retaliation. Like we see this stuff happen all the time with the code, but there was no like retaliatory factor here. It was just him getting mad at a big celebration, almost. Really.
It was the slap shot. He was mad that
Yeah.
the guy took a slap shot and didn't just let the puck slide in the net.
Yeah, but where I just like completely bobbled my way through saying that is that sometimes I think we see a lesser suspension for things that are um or maybe not even lesser, but like the retaliatory part comes into why it is a certain amount of games.
Yeah.
There is no like really Greg didn't do anything bad to another
No.
player.
He didn't do anything
Like
wrong.
like in no circumstance is that something that you get a penalty for, are you suspended for, or ever.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm a little bit curious to see how this plays out. Do
Well,
you know what I'm getting at?
no,
Like
I
I
know exactly what you're
completely
saying.
did not explain that well.
I was just waiting for you to like finish your stroke so that I could jump in.
Yeah.
Like David Perron, what he did was in retaliation for Joseph. Even though Joseph didn't do a lot, like thinking back to the play, like Dylan Larkin was knocked out, and so regardless of what happened with Joseph, like David Perron's interpretation is that Artem Zub knocked out what's his face, Dylan Larkin, and so like that's the retaliation aspect in that I'm doing this because this guy did something, and so I think the Department of Player Safety looks at it and is like, okay, like we have to let the players govern themselves a little bit. We can't be as harsh, but like this is just Reilly being a bitch. Like,
yeah, I guess what I would say is that maybe that's not a great example, because he didn't end up getting the guy who he actually meant to get.
But like that's what it was meant, right?
Yeah, but where I think I'm thinking of it is like, for example, the Goodbranson thing from earlier in the year.
Right,
he gets rocked by Cousins with a bad hit, and then he absolutely attacks him. He mauled him. Yeah, he mauled him. Yeah. So I think you do that.
And how many games did he get?
1.
Yeah, see, like that's where that okay, so that's the better example.
That's what I was trying to think.
That's a better example, because the Goodbranson thing was freaking crazy. Like the way he attacked Cousins was like an ambush. Like it was, he just grabbed him and started wailing on him.
Like if you do that and you didn't have that hit happen to you 5 minutes, like I know you would never do that if the hit didn't happen.
Wasn't it in a previous game?
No.
It was the same game?
No, it was the same game.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you do what Goodbranson did without any of that happening, you're done for 10, 15 games at least.
If you do that, like you're probably getting a suspension worse than Perron's, and that's probably why Perron's was 6 games. So I forgot that Perron actually went and cross-checked Zub and not Joseph. So that's probably why his number was so high. It's because he got the wrong guy. And also like Joseph's thing was not malicious or anything. Like it was
Mhm.
just it was
So
a
I'm
freak
glad
play.
we've got to this point from
Yeah,
where I was bumbling on about,
it was.
but like
Yeah.
I think this comes into it. Like I think Reilly might get hit hard here because
Oh, he's gonna get
nothing
smoked.
nothing happened to him.
Yeah, like, and it was at the end of a game. That's the other thing. Like,
Oh, breaking news.
did it just come
1 minute
down
ago.
in
Offered an
person?
in-person hearing.
Wow.
Wow, what timing.
It means he can be suspended for 6 or more games. That's crazy.
Wow.
So I was looking at Twitter moments ago because you had sent me the Andy Strickland tweet that said like he was thinking like they might come down hard on Morgan Rielly.
Hmm.
And wow. Okay, so that means like he's probably going to get 6 or more.
Yeah,
Because
you'd think.
like guys aren't given in person unless it's for a reason.
Yeah.
Like otherwise,
Yeah.
if they weren't going to suspend him for 6 or more, then it wouldn't be an in-person hearing, right? Like
Yeah, you would think
that's kind
so.
of like in theory you'd think. And so like and then he might appeal it and then it might come down, but usually appeals don't really work because when you appeal it's to Gary Bettman and he does not care about your feelings.
No.
I think it's going to be like 7 or 8. Oh my god, I'm excited.
Wow. I really didn't think they were gonna give him more than 5. Just because like he's never done anything ever.
But that was crazy.
Yeah, though it was bad. I just didn't expect. Yeah, wow.
Wow. That's wild. Okay, like, oh wow. I wonder, like,
But
does
I think they're
this?
getting it right if they're giving him 6 plus. I think they're getting it right.
I agree. I think he should get. I think he should get 6. I think he should get the same amount as Perron, maybe 1 or 2 more games than Perron. But
Hmm.
like, I think Perron is the comparison. I don't think Goodbranson is the comparison, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
And what was I? What was I gonna say? We don't have a lot of time for this conversation, but like, you got to think that if he gets suspended like 5, 6, 7, 8 games, like that probably ups the ante for Toronto to go make a trade, right?
Yeah, but with what cap space? Like it's not like
I
he's going on LTIR. You can use
Yeah,
that. Like,
that's true. What do they have right now? Don't they have space though? If they get a guy to retain because of Klingberg?
oh yeah, they do have the. I forgot he was on LTIR. Yeah, I think they do have space. You're right.
Oh wait, maybe they don't. They
Well, they haven't filled
must.
that space. Yeah, no, they haven't filled that space yet.
Oh well, I don't know. Cap Friendly says it has Klingberg on LTIR, but it says they only have $26,000 in cap space.
Do they have a full roster of
Oh,
23?
they do have a full roster. Oh wow,
Okay.
they have 9 defensemen and 12 forwards in the NHL right now.
Yeah, that'll do it.
They have 23 guys up right now, and
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah,
why.
okay.
So obviously, if they want to go make a trade, they would send like 3 or 4 guys down. Okay, that makes more sense. That was a bit wild looking at that. That was like I was like, what? How? Um, yeah. So like Connor Timmins probably gets sent down because I think he's been in the AHL a lot this year. I don't know. I'm not gonna.
Lajoie's up too right now, I
Yeah, I'm
think.
not gonna speak to that stuff. I don't. Whatever. But
Yeah.
like I don't know. I think they're probably gonna try to make a trade eventually. Like you'd think they do,
Oh yeah.
or
Yeah.
Treliving looks at this as like let's see what happens in the next 5 or 6 games, and like let's say they go like 1-4 without Morgan Rielly. Like all of a sudden, if they go 1-4 without Morgan Rielly, like they're gonna be out of a playoff spot.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're like we talked about their forward depth being a little bit low. Their defensive
Oh
depth
my
is
god.
almost worse. And losing Morgan Rielly is a massive blow
This
for
team,
that defense.
this is the pot calling the kettle black as a Senators fan, but this Leafs team is a mess, man.
Yeah.
It is a mess. I do not envy Brad Treliving's job. I do not envy being a Leafs fan right now. I think they are going to be first round cannon fodder for one of those teams at the top of the Metro or the Atlantic. Man, what a mess in Toronto right now. That's going to be such an interesting team to follow
Yeah.
probably this offseason. Because, like, if they get smoked in the first round again, because, like, I don't see them winning a round this year, especially after they won one last year. Like, that's going to be where the expectation is. I don't see them winning one this year. And if they lose, and if it's, like, in spectacular fashion, like, if they lose in, like, 5 games, can you imagine they get run out of their building by Florida or something? Oh my god.
Yeah,
It could get
it's
ugly
not
there.
looking great for them.
It could get
I
ugly
don't know
there.
how this is gonna turn out for them.
Oh man, I'm fascinated. I can't wait. I wish that his
Imagine they miss the playoffs.
no, I can't imagine that actually.
Like I don't. What comes of that team?
Sources tell me you can anticipate the NHL Department of Player Safety to offer up some stern discipline to Morgan Rielly. Wow.
All right.
Interesting. All right. Let's wrap it there. We really didn't get around to much, but we got around to what we wanted to get to. Damn.
We will await the sussy details.
See what happens. Trade for Ristolainen. I would cry. That would be so funny.
Pull the trigger, Brad.